Well, we're finally back. It's another week of NFC Beast, heading into week 5 already. The NFL season's going by quickly. Crazy to see that we're already headed into week 5, but here we are. Here we are. So far, it looks like it's going pretty well for the NFC East once again. One of the best divisions in football, as we've been talking about for 2 years now. So, if you're joining us, I hope you're a fan of one of these teams. If you are, drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you like wherever you're watching and subscribe to all the great channels that are bringing this content to you. So, let's go ahead and go around the horn real quick, introduce ourselves. Couch Coach, where can everybody find you?
Pretty much Facebook, Twitter, Instagram on my podcast, Couch Coach Live, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then Commanders in the chat, Commanders ITC, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Commanders ITC on social media.
What's going on? Y'all don't need no introduction. Everybody know who I am. The one and only, ladies and gentlemen, big time in the house. As the crowd goes crazy as usual. I'm here. Listen, you can find me simply on Facebook, the Big Time Show, or the Big Time Show YouTube page. Once you come there, I can show you everywhere else where I am, but those are the main two that you can find out. What's going on, Tavis? I see you in here.
Absolutely. So we got another big week of games to get to, so we can go ahead and start with the game that interested me the most this past weekend, and I'm sure Couch Coach felt the same. The Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles. That was the earliest game this weekend. I'm going to let you start it off, Couch, but ultimately, this game, the Washington game gave us everything we could handle. I mean, I'm not surprised, to be quite honest, but man, it was a tough loss. Sorry, tough win, I should say. What are your thoughts on this game, Coach?
Yeah, this is one of those ones where when you look down the line, this could be one of the games that got away from us. You just look at it from the standpoint, us having, us essentially controlling the tempo on this game. Obviously, when you think about it, we had a 14, biggest lead was 17-7. We did a great job as far as the time of possession. Kind of one of the keys that we started off with, as we previewed this matchup. We, was able to, keep you guys offense off the field. So, we was able to control and do things methodically. But then, obviously in the second half, you guys kind of got yourselves together. Then obviously you look at, and thankfully that, you got you and AJ, and not AJ Brown, but as far as getting that fourth quarter touchdown, giving us an opportunity to essentially tie the ball game. And then, obviously not us going for 2, we set up for the field goal to go to overtime. And obviously, we, put it out to you guys and put you in great position. And pretty much Jake Elliott took it home for the Eagles. But tough loss. But it's one of those where at that time, the team looked like they had some fight. So we'll fast forward to that later on. But
yeah, I honestly was encouraged by this game as far as the Washington perspective, because honestly, that game very easily could have turned into a Washington win had a couple plays bounced their way. It just ended up, that the Eagles had a little bit more luck on their side. I mean, ultimately, that was the first time that DeAndre Swift has gotten slowed down at all. He averaged 4 yards a carry, but 14 carries for 56 yards. That's nothing to write home about. Kenneth Gainwell, 4 carries for 14 yards. Again, he got kind of stuffed. They kept Jalen Hurts in check in the run game as well. He only had 34 rushing yards. Outside of A.J. Brown's performance, realistically, this defense by Washington kept the Eagles' offense in check quite a bit this game. So, honestly, I would say that's an encouraging performance. Not to speak on my team so highly, but against one of the better teams in the NFC. So, yeah, if I'm a Washington fan, I'd probably come out of this game not necessarily happy, but encouraged by what I saw for sure. Big Time, any thoughts on this game?
And things turned out the way pretty much everybody expected. You know, everybody figured Philly would win. You just didn't know how. Washington's, at the time was playing. Well, they were playing pretty good. I thought that the defense would get stronger and stronger and stronger, and they have. But it's really not a surprise that Philly won for some crazy reason. They find a way to sneak win out these days, and they did it again. So, hey, I'd rather sneak a win out than to lose. So, hey, it's all good on that. So, not surprised by it. I think that we're gonna lead into Thursday night though, which was a surprise, without a doubt. But good hard game. You expect that out of Washington, Philadelphia.
100%. So moving on to the next game of this weekend, we had the Patriots versus the Cowboys, which ended up in a beatdown by the Cowboys, just basically handing everything the Patriots could handle to them. Ultimately, we saw the Cowboys score 38 points, and Patriots only scored 3. Big time. I'm sure you got some thoughts about this game.
Of course. I think that you can't really, um, I guess, put your hat on, if you let me say that, on a game. It's week to week. Things can change quickly. So everybody, media beat us up, of course, for losing to Arizona. And for some strange reason, they believe that this is now the Dallas Cowboys. But what it showed was that the Arizona week was just the Arizona week. And against the Patriots, we got back to business the way that it's been going all season long. And I didn't expect us to beat them like that because I thought it was going to be a gritty football game. The plan obviously was based off what Arizona did. The plan obviously was that you expected New England to run the ball, and they didn't. For whatever reason, they just didn't. They still, the game was not out of hand. But for some reason, when you play the Cowboys, once you go down early like that, then what happens is that for some reason people forget their game plan, and we wanted Matt Jones to throw the ball, and you see the reason why with the turnovers that he had. We wanted that, and they fell right into our trap. It turned into a one-dimensional game. Zeke Elliott didn't do nothing. Stevenson, very surprised that he didn't get the ball more, and we took him out easily. Blowout game. Once you get into a one-dimensional game with us, you're gonna lose. So that's not a surprise. That's the way it was, and it's a repeat of week 1, 2, 1 and 2, just a blowout win. So I was surprised, not surprised that we won, but the way we won, I was just a little bit surprised. But this defense has shown once again, once they get you, you're in trouble. That's what happened.
100%. Coach, you got any thoughts on this game?
I mean, hey, it's just, obviously you look at New England Patriots, they aren't the Patriots of old. So it's one of those where Cowboys took a full advantage of that matchup, and it's a whole different Patriots team. This ain't what we used to in these last 4 years, but yeah.
100%. I mean, Mac Jones, this was one of his worst performances so far this season, primarily because of the pressure he was put under. 12 of 21 for 150 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Bailey Zappi came in at one point through 4 of 9, a couple incompletions there himself. Dak Prescott looked great. The Dallas defense kept pressure on that offense most of the game, despite the fact that they didn't get a whole lot of sacks, and ultimately Mac Jones just couldn't handle the pressure. So it's definitely interesting to see how Dallas dominated this game so quickly and so easily. Although, like you said, this is not the Patriots we are used to watching over the past 3 years, but I guess that's what happens when you lose Tom Brady and you have to try to replace him with a quarterback who is honestly pretty physically limited when you really look at it. I know we don't have a Giants correspondent tonight, but we're going to go ahead and breeze over the Giants game real quick. But the Giants again lost. They lost 24-3 against the Seattle Seahawks, and in this game, this team just looked like they were not prepared. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks came into this. They only threw for 173 yards and still won the game 24-3. Daniel Jones, 27 of 34, 203 yards, 2 interceptions. Ultimately, he was leading the team in rushing. Didn't get a whole lot going in the passing game. So ultimately, pretty sad performance by the Giants. Any thoughts by you, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, it was ugly. It was one of those where the Giants looked like they were doing a little something, but Seattle just came back roaring. Obviously, thought they would get a little bit of momentum after Geno Smith briefly went out with that ankle injury. But shout out to a lot of people questioned that Devin Witherspoon pick, and boy, he looked pretty good. Obviously, with that pick six, he pretty much put a nail in the coffin for Seattle to win this football game. But yeah.
100% on the day. He had 6 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception. He was the big difference in this game. Big time, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I just got one. I sat back and watched the game, and I just laughed. I mean, not that I don't like the Giants by no means, but what had me just reminiscing just a few weeks ago, and I guess Matt Jones kind of fits into this category as well. Even though I really hadn't heard this, I heard a lot of people say, and when I say a lot, I mean I heard pretty good people, a lot of people, say that Daniel Jones was better than Dak Prescott. That's all I could think of, and I just said, "Wow, okay." And in fairness to Daniel, at least for this part, you can't run the race without the horses. If Saquon is down, he is beyond a shadow of a doubt their MVP. And he has to be out there in order for Daniel to be effective. Because if the game has to turn into his hands exclusively, they're not going to win. He's just not that guy. And there's nothing wrong with being a game manager. The problem with people, and I guess this kind of fits with my quarterback, is that there's mistaken identity. And they try their best to look at these guys through elite quarterback eyes, when really you should be looking at them through game manager eyes. And that way you can say, okay, well, he's a pretty good game manager quarterback that has some great moments. Daniel Jones does not have great moments. He hasn't had anything really, because he's just a game manager, and he has to have Saquon in the game in order for him to be really, really effective. We talked about Matt Jones. He's the same way. They won't even give him a number one receiver. So, I mean, what he's supposed to do? He really has no great tight end. What is he supposed to do? So, once you have a game manager type quarterback with no weapons, really, this is the kind of performances that you're gonna see from quarterbacks like that. That's all I got out of it. I didn't expect the Giants to look that bad, but when you look at what's surrounding him, Darren Waller doesn't even look like he want to play. You know what I'm saying? No energy, no nothing. He just look like he just there to collect a check, and then go home. You know what I'm saying? So once you have all this going on, can we really blame Daniel? But at the same time, you got to look at it and say, okay, you're stuck with him because you paid this amount of money for him, and he ain't going nowhere. So, this is what you got to deal with. Your best bet is to surround him with things that can help him, because he can't pull it by himself. It's nowhere where he's just not that type of quarterback.
Not at all. And it doesn't help when his offensive line basically did the same thing you said about Darren Waller and just collected a paycheck this week, because 11 sacks in a single game. You had 4 different players notch 2 sacks apiece. Just unreal. I mean, it was basically like the offensive line snapped the ball and threw up their hands and let the defenders just run right past them because basically they didn't even try all game long. But just unbelievable game. Realistically, thought this was going to end up being a lot closer game. I thought the Giants were going to show some fight against Seattle because really Seattle hasn't done anything special either. But ultimately, here we are. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see, but that stuff happens in the NFL.
Yeah.
But looking forward to week 5. Let's go ahead and talk about that Thursday night game. Coach, I'm sure you got a lot of thoughts about this game, especially after the way the Bears lost the prior week. Why don't you go ahead and just lead into it for us?
All right. So as I talked positively about somewhat of a opportunity for us to potentially win that game against Philly, I could definitely not say that for this Washington Commanders team on Thursday night. This Thursday night game was atrocious. I'm to a point where I want to boycott every year to the NFL offices that never ever put us on primetime ever again at FedEx Field. That was embarrassing. It got to a point where, and I've always talked about this, and this even on this show, and then also on Commanders in the Chat. It pretty much anytime I'll talk about Washington, there's always a scenario where I always say, prevent the dam from breaking. The dam broke from opening kickoff. I mean, you look at how the Bears were able to surgically, methodically just move the ball on pretty much every possession in that first half. We were losing this game 24-3 at halftime. This game was out of control from the jump. Obviously, we got nothing done offensively. Obviously, when people say, well, your running game didn't work, we was already down. We was already behind. So we could never get that established. The play calling on Jack Del Rio was horrible. You looked at that play. You look at DJ Moore had a Hall of Fame-esque type of game. Like he almost had a point. He was getting ready to, have his game worn jersey was going to be at Canton. How much he was doing in that game because the Bears left a lot of points on that field. That defense is atrocious. And so we kept on talking about that, averaging 30 points per game. We thought, okay, well, that's against Philly. That's against Buffalo. You got a Bears team that has now won a football game in a calendar year. They almost went almost a whole 365 days without a win. And that's including off season. And for them to come out like this was embarrassing to a point where I don't know if this team is ever going to recover from that. And I know people say, well, it's a new week, but losing a game like that to the Chicago Bears team is deflating. It was embarrassing, to say the least. And I just hope next year we don't have any primetime games. Because it's embarrassing. We always, especially when it comes to primetime games, so bizarre. Especially at home, we just always come out flat. We come out looking embarrassing. It never fails.
I will say, to be fair, it was a short week. It was just a Thursday night game, and hopefully they now have 10 days before they have to play next Sunday. So they got the Falcons next week, which we'll get into here shortly. It's going to be interesting. I think that might be a good opportunity for a win.
And one more thing, Sam. I get that. Chicago had the same situation. Chicago had the same thing. And the crazy thing about them, they ran home, and I know they had to travel to Washington. That made it even worse. I mean, we was on the road too, but I mean, it's a 30-minute flight. Like, embarrassing. And then Ron Rivera doesn't make any adjustments at halftime. He let the players just talk among themselves. I'm like, dude, I don't know where to go from here. It's just from this team. It's embarrassing, man. It's just so embarrassing.
Hey, I mean, I won't argue any further. That was my only point that I had as far as why it was as bad as it was. Big Time, any thoughts on this game?
Well, you took my thunder, Sam, because I was going to say the same thing about the short week. But I'll add this to it. If we were to add it, Chicago is a desperate football team. They hadn't won a game, and they were ready to play. I think that Couch. I think it was almost a classic case of what we saw with the Cowboys in Arizona. I think they just figured that they could show up. We're at home. They ain't won a game. They've been arguing. Everything is in disarray in Chicago. And, and I don't think the intensity level was there. And what messed me up, if you wanted to pinpoint something about it, was that, I know DJ Moore is great. It's pretty good, but he ain't Jerry Rice. Good God. He had a career day. He's good, but he's not that guy, like that. I mean, he's good though. But to have him almost did he have over 200 yards receiving? If I'm not mistaken, is that right? I think he did.
They were like I think it was two.
Let me check.
I think that is it.
Did 230?
230. I think he had 3 touchdowns.
He had 2 touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so you just can't have
I think it was a 200.
Yeah,
8 receptions, 230 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
See, I'm saying that's not deep. That's Justin Jefferson type numbers. That's Tyreek Hill type stuff. Those guys are not DJ Moore. You know what I'm saying? If DJ Moore was doing that, he never would have got out of Carolina. That was his greatest day in history. So when you see that was bad. I'll throw this last thing in, Sam and Coach. I'll say this. I do see some light at the end of the tunnel, though. And you're right, it's going to be hard. And I ain't going to say it's going to be hard. I think it was kind of like Dallas, Arizona. I think y'all be ready to play. You got a little mini bye week. You should be good. But it was refreshing to me to see Magic Johnson come out and just say what he had to say, because what that shows is accountability. Now, for everybody else that don't like getting called out in the media like that, they're gonna have to suck it up and let's go. If guys getting mad, this Magic Johnson we talking about, he has that credibility, even though it's a total different sport. Even though it's that, he has that credibility because he's a champion. And your other owner has won championships in other leagues. So the credibility is there, and the standard will be there. They're just not used to it. I'm quite sure a lot of guys, it rubbed them the wrong way to see Magic come out and say something, but so be it. This is what that it's good to know what the expectations are. So I was cool with that.
Definitely. Well, we had some quarter season thoughts we wanted to get to for everybody, since we're already that way or that far through the season. Crazy to think once again that we're already 4 or 5 weeks into the season. But let's get to our expectations. Have your expectations for your team changed since the preseason? Let's start with Couch.
Yeah, I definitely think I think slightly, because I even thought this team was going to be at least a 500 team, because obviously I know we at the time we had Buffalo, we had Philly, so I figured, hey, we probably have 2 losses. I think the Chicago one wasn't on my list as far as a game that we were going to lose to. So I think it's right in the middle. I think it's where I kind of figured we were going to be in this spot. I mean, as far as at least at 500, hovering over 500, I think we were going to be like 5-0 at this point. I figured, hey, at least 3-2, but 2-3 is, like it's a difference, So it's certain things, like if things would have went the way it felt, if we would have went for 2, maybe that made us 3-2 or what have you. But it's still I still got to say the expectation is the same. I think ain't nothing really changed, honestly, in my personal opinion.
That's fair. Big Time, what about your expectations for the Cowboys?
Mine are still the same, and depending on tomorrow night, I may change it again. I expected us to be 4-0 at this point. Of course, we're 3-1 heading into the Frisco game, which everybody had circled. So they're where they are. I did not expect us to lose against Arizona. So that's really the only hiccup that I have. The way that we play, um, the offense in training camp was known as they were secondary to the defense. So the expectation was the defense was going to be the strongest unit on the team, and they have been. So that's not a surprise. Before the season started, I had said that they should be a top 3 defense in the league, just built off paper, and they are. So that's not it. I mean, I expected the offense not to be as dominant as the offense. I mean, the defense is. So I'm not surprised at all. The way that I'm going to say is, win or lose tomorrow night. I just want to see how we play. That's the part so far to me has been consistent, other than the Arizona game, and that was the defense. They got lit up as well. So not much of a surprise. I said we would be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFC. We are, and it's not a shock to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment on both sides for both of you guys' teams. Washington, I think, is just a smidge below where I expected, but realistically, that could change as early as next week. Like I mentioned before, I definitely think that's a winnable game for them. And then Dallas, they're definitely walking into a winnable game this weekend, and I ultimately think we're probably going to see them, end up 4-1 after this weekend. So, as far as the Eagles go, to be quite honest, I think they've kind of exceeded my expectations so far. I really was worried about that Tampa Bay game. I thought they might be the game that we ended up finding our first loss. It hasn't happened yet. I know it will at some point. We are not going to be undefeated all season long. Just look at the way we've played. This offense has looked off, just off at points in time where it didn't seem like we could get into a rhythm that we were able to get in last season. Hopefully that changes. This past game gave me a little bit better feeling about that offense, but ultimately we got a long way to go. I mean, it's not a perfect picture of the Eagles team that I thought we would have this season, and ultimately we'll see how things go. But so far so good, I guess. So what's the biggest opportunity for improvement from each team? Let's start with Big Time this time.
Offensively, you can't move the ball like we're moving and then somewhat get halted in red zone. Now, in fairness to a lot of people always want to point it on Dak. So, in fairness to Dak, Peyton Hendershot in the red zone dropped 1 in the end zone. No, excuse me, 2. Jake Ferguson dropped 1 in the end zone. There was another drop as well. I forgot who that was, but even if you just get 2 of those, your red zone percentage changes tremendously. Or even you cash in at least on 3. I mean, and you can't blame Dak for that. So I'll be honest with you, if the Cowboys did score in the red zone like everybody talking about, we'll be averaging 40. I mean, yeah, man, good Lord. If you scoring, like, I mean, we're scoring, we have help me out, Sam. What are we averaging? I mean, is it 28? I mean, let me know real quick. I don't know what we. I mean, a lot of that is defense as well, because defense have scored a lot, a few touchdowns themselves. But the offense is scoring. We're moving the ball. That's really the only thing. My defense is one of the best in the whole league. So there's nothing really to talk about that. Can I answer this question real quick?
Yeah.
Marco play where on offense can San Fran hurt Dallas? It's simple. If McCaffrey goes off, there it is. That is really him. I think that the secondary can handle Debo and Ayuk, and I even throw Kittle in, even though Kittle scares me a little bit. But if McCaffrey goes off, then we're in trouble. It's just that simple. Even though we bottled him up pretty good in the playoff game, I think he had 10 carries for 35 yards. But it's got to be McCaffrey. You got to keep him calm down.
100%.
Go ahead. That's it for me.
I was just going to say the points scored by the Cowboys so far, 124 points in 4 games. That breaks down to 31 points a game. So yeah, if they were converting those red zone attempts, we're talking about 40 points a game.
Yeah, we average 40. That's not being braggadocious. It's just the truth. I mean, they would score 40. So y'all better hope so. We look, if we drive, do what we usually do, San Francisco better be ready. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, actually, if you're looking at the 2 toughest teams in terms of on paper currently, we're probably talking about San Francisco and Dallas. I mean, Dallas's offense 124 points, San Francisco's 125, but Dallas's defense has only allowed 41 points in 4 games. San Francisco's allowed 58. So that looks like a very even matchup on paper. It's going to be a good game later on this season for sure. Coach, how are you feeling about your team? Where can they improve the most? Obviously not Sam Howell's performance, I would imagine.
No, not at all. I think he's in a weird way. He's been like our bright spot. I mean, as far as so I think more so. Obviously, when you look at defense, you got good and bad things on this defense. Obviously, when it comes to getting sacks, I mean, we pretty much are tops in the league as far as getting sacks. I think our biggest thing is getting turnovers on the defensive side. I think that's one thing too where we need to improve on there as well. So I look at hopefully, because I know Emmanuel Forbes is the only one that has as far as leads us as far as interceptions, him and Kendall Fuller. Can we get some turnovers on that end? And then I think my other thing is essentially the run game. A run game can be a little bit more. I think that's our catalyst where we can get that going. I think we're like 24th as far as rushing per game. So we definitely need to improve that because I think that's where we can start these games off and then give Sam an opportunity to, as far as, screen passes and it opens up the offense if we have a good running game. So those are the kind of the 2 key things I think that we need to improve on.
Definitely makes sense. Right now, Washington sits at a -5 turnover ratio, and they're averaging about 102 rushing yards a game. So definitely makes sense on both fronts. If I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles right now, the biggest room for improvement right now is that pass rush. I mean, I know we've had a couple of situations where they've gotten some sacks, but quite honestly, after coming off a 70 sack season last year, and in my eyes, improving the talent that we had up front, I expected better. I know that's extremely high expectations, but after what we did last year, I really truly thought this defense was only going to get better, especially with who we brought in the first round. And ultimately, it just hasn't panned out quite yet. I do think that as this season goes on, both the rookies will get more involved in terms of the pass rush and we'll start providing more sacks. But, we're getting plenty of pressure. We're just not getting home right now. And I think that's going to change as the season goes on as well. But that's a small gripe to have considering the defensive line that we've got. It's only a matter of time before they ultimately turn things around for us. But we've got a couple more subjects to get to here. What's the biggest strength for each team? I know, Coach, you just mentioned the pressure ratio that you guys are getting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's one big thing because I know, coming into obviously us having the 4 first round, four first round draft picks on the defensive line. My bad. So you look at it just from that standpoint that those guys are doing their thing. Especially you look at the return of Chase Young and he's doing what he's doing. And I think I think one thing I'm liking now is I think you look at Sam Howell in this offense. I think obviously even though you can scratch we all know everybody's prone to have a bad game. You look like Josh Allen had 4 interceptions. Well, he had 3 interceptions in week 1. Same thing happened to Sam Howell, in week 3 of our season. So I mean, to me, I think he has been our bright spot. I do like the fact that even though, and I think everybody has been involved offensively. You look at, especially from the, you look at Curtis Samuel, he's active as well. You look at Jahan, he scored a touchdown against you guys last week in Philly. And I think one of those things where it's like the scary thing about it is, no pun intended, but Scary Terry isn't, hasn't been effective. But once he gets on, I think that's going to help his offense like to the next level. But yeah.
I would 100%
Yeah, but I think
agree.
that was yeah. Now that one last week, that was because we was behind. Yeah, it's like we couldn't. I mean, he couldn't do nothing because I think Sam Howell led us in rushing last week. Like he had like 19. Well, not last week, but Thursday. I think he had like 19 rushing yards. I think Brian Robinson only had like 10.
You're 100% correct on both of those numbers.
Yeah.
But,
so
I would agree that they definitely needed to mix in more balance there, and probably would have helped the game flow overall. But yeah, when you're behind, what was it, 24-3? You said at halftime, you're going to be passing to try and get back in that game. And at one point they did catch a little momentum. So
yeah,
100%. Big time. What's the biggest strength for your Cowboys right now?
I think that's the obvious answer. That's the defense. But I'm gonna go a different way. I think everybody knows that the defense is strong. But I think we got to start giving some credit to our special teams unit, because they are pretty strong. And when I'm particularly talking about our field goal kicker, that was one of the biggest question marks on this team, is who's going to be our kicker. Then especially after we signed a guy that was from the USFL. That became the joke of the Cowboy Nation, like, and haters saying, y'all got, why don't y'all sign a kicker? Well, we did. Well, where he come from? The USFL. And everybody's busting out laughing. Well, right now ain't nobody laughing because the kid don't miss. He only missed one extra point, and he has not missed nothing ever since. And I ain't talking about no chip shots. I'm talking about bombs. And he's been a very pleasant surprise for us, and that's turning out to be. And I know they're not the same thing as the defense, but he's doing well. Special teams, we blocked the kick against the Giants, returned it for a touchdown. I mean, we've done some. We did a 2-point conversion on New England last week. Off a touchdown to keep the momentum going, get the crowd into it. A big, little small plays like that, a momentum play. So the special teams unit, I think we got to start looking at that. Turpin has had a couple good returns, solid punt, keeping the not possession, but keeping the field of position in real good shape for the defense to go hunt, rather than starting drives at the 50-yard line or 45-yard line above. This kid actually, like I'm saying, touchbacks. I mean, he's not only kicking it to the end zone, he's kicking it all the way through the end zone. So there's no kickoff return. Your ball will be at the 25-yard line when we started off, and I take my chance with that. So they have been a weapon so far. I know the defense is the strongest point, without a doubt, but I think we can't overlook what the special teams unit been doing.
Yeah, I would agree. And for anybody questioning who they're signing in terms of these USFL guys, I would look at John Fossil's resume, because he got his start in alternative football over in NFL Europe. So he's always going to look at these type of leagues for talent. And if you went and watched Brandon Aubrey's tape in the USFL, you would realize he didn't miss there either. The field's the same size. Kicking is kicking is kicking. Realistically, the only difference is that he's got, a little bit faster rush coming at him, a little bit more talented athletes, I guess. But at the end of the day, if you're accurate in the USFL, chances are you're going to be accurate in the NFL as well in terms of kicking.
True.
But he's been a pleasant surprise for my fantasy team as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for Dallas kicking all those field goals recently. I've enjoyed that quite heavily. In terms of the Eagles' strength right now, I think it's obviously DeAndre Swift. I mean, you look at the way the guy's running the ball, and this past week was the first time that he's really gotten bottled up. And you notice that our offense didn't really look like it was the same, several different times throughout the game. Ultimately, we did get the win, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. I think that we got to get a little bit more creative in the way that we use our backs and rotate in Rashad Penny more. I don't like the fact that he has not been involved much at all so far this season. You brought that guy in, so we have a bigger back in the first place. Why aren't we using him in situations that call for it? But ultimately, we got one more subject real quick I wanted to get to, and it is what is the most pivotal matchup for your team over the next quarter of the season, so the next 4 games. Go ahead. Let's go, Coach, first.
As many of your Eagle contingent, will say, I think it's going to be our October 29th matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think when you look at it, how will this team fare after the Giants game? Like, will we lose to the Giants and then we're 0-2 in the division? And as far as we could go in and match up and maybe being 0-2 in this division, which I think if it's a must win, regardless if we win or lose against the Giants, because you definitely at this point going into the month of November, you do not want to be under 500 as far as NFC East wins. So you look at it, it's a one of those games, but you definitely don't want you don't want to get swept by a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. Think to yourself, then you got to essentially run the table. And then obviously, we still got the Giants in November right before, sandwich in between. Obviously we play, the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and then we play them in week 18. So you got to win one of these NFC East games coming up. So I definitely think us, going to FedEx and avenging our loss from last week. So that's our biggest matchup. That would be, as some of the Eagles guys would say, that's our Super Bowl. Especially for a team of our nature, we gotta take care of business and beat Philly for sure.
That's definitely fair. Big time. What's the most crucial matchup over your next quarter of the season for the Cowboys?
Tomorrow night, for several reasons. Number one, it's the team that put you out for the last 2 seasons. It's a team that is known as a bully. It's a team that is known as, a team that a lot of people got them circled to be in the Super Bowl this year. And if you're really serious about making that type of run, you got to go and meet the bully and hit the bully in the mouth and let them know, even though it's week 5, if we see y'all again, we're going to hit you in the mouth again. And so you got to send a message tomorrow. But most importantly, and bigger than that, because of the way that San Francisco is winning, and you think that they probably going to win a whole lot more this year, you can't afford to go 2 games behind, even though it's week 5 already. If the Cowboys lose, they'll be 3-2. The San Francisco 49ers will be they'll be 5-0 if I'm not mistaken, 5-0, and they'll have a head-to-head win against you. So just in case things come down for some crazy reason, we get the same record, they're still over us. When you got teams like Philly and San Francisco that you got to keep pace, and unfortunately, that's why the Arizona loss kind of messed us up, because if you lose and they keep winning, you down 2, and it's gonna be hard to make up those 2 games. I don't care what week we in; they're too good. I'm not saying you can't, but you're gonna have to. You can't afford any more hiccups if you're 2 games down. We ain't even got to the division or some of the big heated divisions. But I will say this. So I'm saying it's tomorrow. However, the overall big picture, Sam and Coach, is this. We're going to find out everything we need to know about the Dallas Cowboys in these next 4 games. San Francisco tomorrow night. at the Chargers. Even though, Cowboys may be favored, but it's on the road at the Chargers, at home 2 weeks later against the Rams. And I know folks going to say, well, your favorite, but I'm saying the Rams. Cooper Kupp is coming back. The young kid is that the other kid is just killing everybody right now. They're going to be together. You still got Matthew Stafford. They're dangerous. Then we play at Philly on November the 5th. So you got the 49ers, Chargers, Rams, Eagles. 3 of them are on the road. We're going to find out now. That's going to tell everything that we need to know about the rest of this season. If the Cowboys can come out of that thing 3-1, 4-0 maybe, look out. That's all I'm going to say. But if they come out 2-2, that's okay. But if you come out 3-1 or 4-0 out of that, look out. That's all I'm going to say.
100%. As far as the most crucial games for the Eagles, I mean, one of 2 games. It's either this upcoming week's game in terms of the Rams. I think this is going to be a tough game for us as well, especially with Cooper Kupp coming back. And then obviously that Washington game as well. I mean, you got to beat division opponents to win the division, in my personal opinion. Otherwise, we're just going to all cannibalize each other, and we'll end up having a terrible record, and we'll all be lower on in the playoff seeding. But ultimately, one of those 2 games, I'm leaning more towards that Washington game due to the division implications, of course. But ultimately, for the Giants, I would say probably either this weekend against the Dolphins or next week against the Bills are 2 very crucial games. The Giants have a really early bye week this season. So they've only got 2 more games, and then they hit their bye. If you go into that bye week with only 1 win, you're not shaping up very good in terms of the season. So they need to win a game before that bye, move into the bye with some momentum, and then come out hot for the rest of the season, because they're already way behind the 8 ball, and it's only week 5. So there's no room for losses in the NFC East if you want to make the playoffs, and the Giants know that. That's why you paid Daniel Jones. It's time he starts earning that money. But speaking of that Dolphins-Giants game, let's go to Big Time. Big Time, do you have any thoughts on this Dolphins-Giants game this weekend?
Oh, man. If the Giants look like they did last week, they are going to the Giant. I mean, the Dolphins a couple weeks ago almost set a record for points. They very well could get it this week if they don't watch out. And I mean, I know that may not happen, obviously, but it's going to be a beatdown. That's just really the bottom line. How bad is it? I don't know. But I don't think that the Giants can even compete with these guys. But any given Sunday, any given Sunday, you just never know.
100%. Coach, you got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be, especially considering the fact that this Dolphins team did, lose to the Buffalo Bills last week, and they're back at home. So it definitely is one of those games. I definitely think it is a game where I think Miami will take full advantage of this Giants team, and they may not get 70. They might hang about 35, 42 on them, but it ain't gonna be 70. No. So yeah.
No.
That's fair. I definitely think this is going to be a little bit of a retribution game for the Dolphins. Like you mentioned, they took a little bit of a beatdown last week from the Bills. So I think they're going to try and bounce back against the Giants, who they probably look at as a cupcake opponent currently. So check out that game, 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Definitely excited to see how that game comes down, because you don't really know what Dolphins team you'll get. Like you guys said, 2 weeks ago, they scored 70. Last week, they could only put up 20. Which team do you get? Moving on to the next game, though, we got the Eagles versus the Rams. I'm going to go ahead and kick us off on this one, but I ultimately think this game could be an interesting game for the Eagles fans, because we got a new cornerback manning the slot, so we were able to move James Bradbury back where he belongs on the outside. We've got former no-fly zone member from the Denver Broncos, New Orleans Saints, Houston Texans, Bradley Roby, who has yet to play this season so far. I'm very excited and encouraged that we made a move so far. It'll be interesting to see where he's at in terms of his readiness to play. We've had several different guys cycle through that slot position, and it's been kind of a weakness for us so far this season. So it's important to see how he does this weekend, especially against a team that can definitely spread teams out. The Rams, like to use 3 and 4 receivers, so he's definitely going to get a test this weekend. And I still expect that we see plenty of Josh Jobe and Sidney Brown in that dime position as well. Ultimately, I'm going to say this is probably going to end up an Eagles victory, but I expect another close game. It would not shock me if the last team to hold onto the ball wins this game. I don't expect any more than a 7-point victory. And honestly, I'm thinking probably 35-28 or something like that in this game. Let's go to Big Time. What are your thoughts on this game?
Oh, I don't think it should be a problem. I think y'all gonna handle your business. You guys have the same fire, I guess. Everybody's got their eye on what everybody else is doing, and you got to keep pace. That's enough motivation. To be honest with you, everybody know the 49ers are there. The 49ers are looking at the Eagles. They don't have to look at us because we're coming to their house. So they got a chance to handle us, and we got a chance to handle them. But everybody's watching Philly. Everybody's watching San Francisco. So we got to just make sure that everybody stay on pace. That's enough motivation. I think Philly is going to handle business. Even if it's by 3 points, it don't make no difference.
Absolutely. Coach, what are your thoughts on this game?
You with us, Coach? Are you with us, Coach?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I'm here. This is kind of an interesting game. You look at with this Rams team, definitely, I think they're like one of the tops as far as passing offenses in this league. Now you bring back Cooper Kupp, so it's definitely gonna be kind of one of those interesting matchups. And then obviously coupled with Puka, he's doing his thing. So this is gonna be a really interesting game, and I think the Rams. I think the Super Bowl hangover is over. Like obviously like last year, they had pretty much one of the worst records coming off the Super Bowl. So I think they're still like a fringe playoff team. And I think like Big Time was saying, they got to still kind of be in this race with the San Francisco 49ers, and they need to, this would be a good opportunity, especially to be a team like the Philadelphia Eagles in this case. But I don't know. I definitely I kind of low key I'm feeling the Rams in this matchup.
It's perfectly understandable. Like I said, I totally expect this to be a close game. If there's any offense that can run with the Eagles, it's probably Sean McVay and that Rams offense. Although they haven't showed us that quite yet this season, they've still got that 40-point game in them somewhere for sure. So moving on to the last game of this weekend, obviously probably the biggest matchup for any fan of the NFL personally this weekend. You're looking at the Cowboys and 49ers. Big Time, go ahead and kick us off in this one.
Well, it's and NBC is going to be incredibly happy tomorrow night. And, from a business standpoint, I really feel like this may be the only game that may outmatch this in ratings. Will probably be the Super Bowl itself. The Cowboys bring ratings, but when you add in the San Francisco 49ers fan base, this is going to be I would think this is going to break records. Now, as far as the game goes, I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag out war. On my show, I stopped doing predictions after the Arizona game. The Cowboys hurt me so bad, I can't do no more predictions. As far as score goes, but I think that the Cowboys are focused. Only two things I feel has to happen for us to win. We got to shut down McCaffrey. He's playing like an MVP. He looks like one. He's incredibly dangerous. The only thing that I could say is that in the playoff game last year, we held him to 10 carries for 35 yards. That's big. It was Mitchell who hurt us last season, but Mitchell is not playing. That's going to be big for us. The second thing is that we don't need to make Dak the MVP. You got to look at him as he is, at least to me. We got to start looking at him as a real pretty good, sometime great game manager. And if you look at it from his eyes, the game is not on him. The game is on the running game. The game is on the defense. If we do what we do, I think that we might pull this one off. So it's gonna be who gonna bully who first, who's gonna stop the run. Whoever run the ball the best is gonna win. Everybody talking about Christian McCaffrey. May I submit to everybody, please don't forget about Tony Pollard. Please don't, because he can get you too. That's all I'm gonna say.
100% he can. Coach, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so big time. I don't know. The Swifties may disagree as far as the ratings. So, but this is just a tongue-in-cheek joke. But yeah, this is gonna be the waiting all day for Sunday night type of matchup. I think this is kind of one of those where you look at two teams, especially that are gonna be in the playoff picture in the NFC. Both these, even in the playoff losses, they've came down to the wire. I think a lot of people kind of fail to realize that. I know a lot of people like to, y'all lost San Francisco, but they lose in this, and these are very close games, and it's just a difference between a few plays here and there where Dallas had an opportunity to win these football games, so it's never like a blowout type of scenario, guys. Like you said, it's knockout, drag out. It's definitely gonna be a good game, and like you said, Dak doesn't necessarily have to be the hero in this one. If it's definitely all three phases are coming together, I definitely think guys definitely got a good shot. And it would be kind of one of those type of nights in a weird way that Dallas would win, and obviously kind of, I won't say take the focus off of San Francisco in a sense, but more so of how they've kind of been skating around so far, and everybody's looking at ultimately the best team in football, as many people think they are. But I call me crazy. I definitely think you guys are gonna have could be an upset. I definitely think y'all might take care of business on tomorrow night for sure.
That's a fair assessment as well. I think the 49ers have yet to be really tested by a defense of this caliber, because there is no other defense of this caliber currently this season. So it's kind of hard to get that test so far, but you don't allow just barely over 10 points a game without being an amazing defense, especially at this point in the NFL where every team is passing 60-70% of times a game. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a tough game for Dallas regardless. Christian McCaffrey, I like what you said big time about him possibly being an MVP candidate. 600 yards of total offense and 7 touchdowns in 4 games. He's got 98 total touches already on the season. Just unreal what he's been able to do so far. Hopefully he can stay healthy throughout the season, because that's a lot of carries and touches so far so early. But ultimately excited to see this matchup, because not only is CMC in this game and he's one of the most dynamic electric backs, but Tony Pollard is very much the same type of player as Christian McCaffrey. He may not have the type of receiving upside that CMC has, but he's still a damn good player in that passing game and the run game. I'm definitely excited to watch this game for sure. I don't normally watch Cowboys games, but this is going to be the game of the weekend for sure. Any final thoughts before we wrap a bow on this one? Let's go to Couch Coach first.
Yeah, I mean, just great show. Obviously, talk about the NFC East, and yeah, man, once again, another great show.
Absolutely. Where can everybody find you again?
So pretty much website couchcoachlive.com, social media Couch Coach Live, Couch Coach Live, the podcast every Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and then Commanders in the chat every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Social media, Commanders ITC.
Very nice. Make sure you check him out all over the place. And then we also got Big Time. Big Time, what are your final thoughts for the evening? And then where can we find you?
I'll start with this ridiculous comment right here. I don't even know why I'm gonna do this. Let's not act like Brock Purdy is Dan Marino. He's a dink and dat guy too. It's really that simple. He's a game manager too. So to answer your question, both of them play the same game. But I don't even know how I addressed that. But anyway, um, it's week 5 for my team, but it is crucial. It's crucial. This is a big game. No, the season would not be over if we lose. It just makes the road a little bit harder to trying to get it a home field. It's gonna be kind of hard. But if we win, it'll be big just for the 49ers to know if we see y'all again, we'll punch you in the mouth again. That's the bottom line. Whether it's on the road or you come back to Dallas, if it happens like that, or even if we see them again, that is not a guarantee. I heard what Coach said, and that goes for my team too. Like, will we see each other again? I don't know. I don't know. You could lose in first round. I don't know. I mean, will we make the playoffs? You're only one gigantic catastrophic injury away from this thing going down the drain. So I don't know. But all I know is we got tomorrow night. And tomorrow night, it is a big game. Don't even want to. A lot of people gonna say, "Well, it's only week 5." No, it's a big game. It's a huge game tomorrow night, and we need to send a statement. It's just the bottom line to me. If y'all want to follow me, most of you guys know where I'm at. Again, the Big Time Show on Facebook or the Big Time Show on YouTube. Follow either one there, and then we can discuss where else I am at the time. But I appreciate everybody coming in, and thanks for hanging with us tonight. Hope we weren't too boring on tonight. If not, I'll crank this foolishness up that I have in me, and we'll crank it up next week. All right.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to the foolishness getting cranked up next week for sure. My final thoughts for the evening is definitely exciting week of games. I mean, no matter where you look, this is going to be tough matchups for all the NFC East teams. We already saw the Commanders play, and they had a tough matchup. You got the Eagles and Rams, Cowboys and 49ers, Giants and Dolphins. All of these games are going to be fun to watch. So make sure you're tuning in. You basically got all day football tomorrow from 11 till 6:20 p.m. kickoff for Cowboys. So make sure you tune into all these games. Definitely well worth a watch. And then ultimately, you can find me on Shady Sports Network YouTube channel. Basically daily, we've got content coming down. It's not always me. We got tons of people that are helping us with the network. Tomorrow, we've got a couple big episodes coming, including an Eagles pregame show with the crew from the Eagles Elite podcast. So make sure to check that out. It'll be 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow. But ultimately, thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. It's been a lot of fun. We always love covering the NFC East, the best division in football still to this day. I don't care what the record says for the Giants and the Washington Commanders currently. Definitely still the best division in football. Things will change quick. I guarantee it. But with that being said, thank you for everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
See you next week.